You woke up this morning and made yourself smaller than you are. Not because life forced you to, not because you had no choice, but because somewhere along the way you agreed to it. You agreed to the idea that the life you want is for someone else. Someone luckier, someone braver, someone with a different name, a different background, a different start. But here's what they never told you. The distance between where you are and where you could be is not measured in years, or money, or connections. It is measured in one thing only: psychology. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to see yourself differently. There is a concept in psychology called the upper limit problem. It was studied and written about by therapist Gay Hendricks after decades of working with high performers and everyday people alike. Here's what he found. Every single person has an invisible ceiling, a psychological thermostat that tells them how much success, happiness, or abundance they are allowed to feel. The moment you start rising above that ceiling, something inside you pulls you back down. You self-sabotage, you procrastinate, you start arguments, you get sick, you quit. Not because you are weak, but because the ceiling is real and you built it. Think about Marcus, a man who grew up in a working-class neighborhood in Birmingham, England. Brilliant mind, hard-working hands. By his late 20s, he had built a small business that was genuinely taking off. But every time the business reached a certain revenue level, something would go wrong. He would miss a deadline, lose focus for 2 weeks, make a careless decision that cost him a key client. He thought it was bad luck. His mentor thought differently. His mentor said, "Marcus, you do not have a business problem. You have a belief problem. You do not believe deep down that someone like you is supposed to have this." And Marcus stopped, because he knew it was true. His ceiling was not in the market. It was not in the economy. It was in the story his mind had been quietly telling him since he was 12 years old, watching his father work 3 jobs and still struggle. Here's a question I want you to sit with for just a moment. When was the last time someone offered you an opportunity, a real one, and you found a reason to say no? Not a logical reason, an emotional one. A fear dressed up in logic. The timing isn't right. I'm not ready yet. What if it doesn't work out? Psychologists call this behavior self-handicapping. It is the unconscious habit of creating obstacles for yourself before failure even arrives, so that if things go wrong, you have an excuse ready. But here is the painful truth. Self-handicapping does not protect you from failure. It guarantees it. And worse, it robs you of the version of yourself you are in the process of becoming. I want to tell you about a woman named Priya. She was a data analyst in Toronto. Sharp, methodical, and deeply undervalued at her job. A senior position opened up, one that would have doubled her salary and given her a team to lead. She spent 3 weeks getting ready to apply. She rewrote her resume 14 times. She told herself she needed one more certification first. She asked 5 different people for their opinion on whether she was qualified. And then the deadline passed. A colleague with half her experience got the role. Priya did not lack skill. She lacked permission. The internal permission to take up space in a room she had already earned the right to walk into. She told me later, "I kept waiting for someone to tell me I was ready, but no one ever does. You just have to decide." The world does not hold a ceremony to officially declare you ready. Readiness is not a destination. It is a decision you make before the fear disappears, because the fear never fully disappears. In 1994, a man walked out of a South African prison after 27 years behind bars. He had every reason to be defined by what had been taken from him. Every reason to be consumed by bitterness, by vengeance, by smallness. Instead, Nelson Mandela walked into the presidency of a nation. Now, I am not asking you to compare your story to Mandela's, but I am asking you to study one specific thing about how he moved through the world, and that is this. He never acted from a place of fear. He acted from identity, from a deep, unshakable knowledge of who he was and what he was built for. Most people act from fear. They make decisions to avoid loss, to avoid embarrassment, to avoid judgment. And because every action is rooted in fear, every outcome carries the weight of anxiety. But people who operate at the highest levels of achievement, whether in business, in creativity, in leadership, they act from power, not arrogance, power. The quiet, grounded certainty that their presence in a room changes the room. Psychologist Abraham Maslow called this self-actualization, the state where your actions are no longer driven by survival or approval, but by full conscious expression of who you are. The interesting thing about Maslow's research is this. He believed most people never reach this state, not because they are incapable, but because they never truly believe they are allowed to. They spend their whole lives acting like guests in their own story. Polite, quiet, careful not to ask for too much. But you were not designed to be a guest. You were designed to be the author. The shift from guest to author is not dramatic. It does not happen in a single moment of cinematic clarity. It happens in small daily decisions. The decision to speak when you would have stayed silent, to pursue when you would have paused, to claim when you would have waited to be given. Here is the truth that changes everything. The most powerful people in the world are not the ones with the most talent. They are not the ones who were handed the best opportunities. They are not the ones who never felt fear. They are the ones who stopped performing powerlessness. Performing powerlessness. Think about that phrase every time you say I can't when you mean I'm scared. That is a performance. Every time you dim your ambition to fit into a room, that is a performance. Every time you pretend you want less than you do, that is a performance. And here's what makes it so devastating. The audience for that performance is not other people. The audience is you. You are the one watching. You are the one being convinced. Wealth psychology research from Morgan Housel to Daniel Kahneman consistently shows that the gap between wealthy behavior and average behavior is not primarily about information, strategy, or opportunity. It is about self-perception. People who accumulate wealth over time, who build things that last, who move through adversity without breaking, they share one core trait. They do not see themselves as victims of their circumstances. They see themselves as architects of their response to those circumstances. So let me leave you with this. You have been acting smaller than you are. And somewhere inside you, you already know this. You have known it for a while now. The question has never been whether you have what it takes. The question is whether you will stop waiting for proof before you start acting like you do. Marcus rewrote the story. His mind had been telling him. He stopped letting his father's struggle become his ceiling and started letting it become his fuel. Priya stopped waiting for permission. She went after the next opportunity before she felt ready. And she was right. She was never going to feel ready. But she was always qualified. And somewhere tonight in a city you will never visit, someone with half your resources and twice your obstacles is deciding quietly, without applause, to stop playing small. The only difference between the life you have and the life you are capable of is not luck. It is not timing. It is the story you choose to believe about yourself when no one is watching. You are not waiting for a better moment. The moment is waiting for a better version of your thinking. Start there. Start now. Because you are more powerful than you act. And it is time you started acting like it.